Hi there, I'm DG Wright, founder and chancellor of the BLS Coin Collectors Club. Here on our official channel we bring you news and insight from the fascinating world of numismatics. If you enjoy our content, please leave us a like and a comment, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media feeds seen below. We are back again. This time we're moving into the 20th century with some halfpennies from the reigns of Edward VII and George V. As always, if you enjoy our content, please leave us a like and a comment, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Alright, let's get started. First off, we actually have something in decent condition for once. Made in 1902, this coin is definitely a keeper. While King Edward's reign began in 1901, his first coins were dated 1902, continuing a tradition that began with George IV in 1821. Next up is this halfpenny, minted in 1905. Also in relatively decent condition for the era, it is likely this particular specimen only had a limited circulation before ending up in somebody's collection. Decimalization was still over 60 years away, and I can't imagine this coin circulated that long. And now we're back to the heavily worn coins, as you can see from this 1906 specimen. Halfpennies often got a heavier circulation than pennies, being used more often for small transactions. This won't be the last space filler we'll look at today. This coin from 1907 is in pretty good shape, although there's what looks like some corrosion lurking around the edges. Maybe this particular piece was a metal detecting find. It has limited wear but shows signs of being exposed to something that reacted with the bronze. And we're back to the heavily worn ones again. These two were made in 1908 and 1909 and are the last two halfpennies in my collection from the reign of Edward VII. The 1909 one has an odd scratch on the obverse, which makes it look as though the king has a straw in his mouth though. Moving on into the reign of George V, this, again, heavily worn coin was minted in 1912. Some of the pennies were struck at private mints in Birmingham in 1912, 1918 and 1919, but the halfpennies and farthings were all made at the Tower Hill Mint in London. This coin, a 1914 specimen, is a lovely piece. It's in very nice condition and has an attractive dark patina, which is quite unusual in bronze coins after the early 1900s. The First World War broke out in 1914, but coin production was largely unaffected, in large part probably due to the war not reaching the shores of Britain itself. As the Battle of the Somme raged in 1916, everyday life had to go on back home, and the mint continued to produce coins. These two halfpennies from 1916 and 1917 take us back to heavily worn coinage again, a recurring motif for halfpennies, as they were more frequently used as small change than the larger pennies, which had more spending power. The British Empire reached its greatest territorial height after the war's end in 1918. These two coins, made in 1919 and 1920, come from the last years of the British Empire being the predominant world power. The 1920s and 1930s would see the rise of a more multipolar political world, in particular with the rise of the United States of America, Nazi Germany, the Soviet Union, and Imperial Japan. In Bavaria, in 1923, the Nazis attempted to overthrow the Weimar government in the Beer Hall Putsch, leading to Hitler's imprisonment until December 1924. Meantime, in Britain, these coins, dated 1923 and 1924, were made during a period of relative peace, although the economic recovery from the First World War was limited at best. This coin of 1925 has survived the years in somewhat better condition than most of its contemporaries, although heavy wear remains common in halfpennies until the late 1930s. The year 1926 saw the introduction of the modified effigy on the UK coins of George V. This slight redesign of the king's portrait was intended to alleviate the phenomenon of ghosting, which was frequent on bronze coinage from 1902 onwards. However, it wouldn't entirely solve the issue until the smaller bust appears on the bronze coins in 1928. In 1928, the UK Parliament passed the Equal Franchise Act, which gave women the right to vote at the same age as men, which was 21 at the time. This coin, minted the same year, has some deep scuffs on the reverse and heavy wear on the obverse, but we can still see where the smaller bust of the king has replaced the larger one of 1926 to 1927. The UK began its first commercial air flights in 1929, the year this halfpenny was minted. This year also saw the onset of the Great Depression in the US, which severely affected the UK's export economy and caused a major spike in unemployment. This 1933 halfpenny is again heavily worn. This would not affect its value if it was the legendary 1933 penny, but the halfpenny sadly is no rarer than those of most other years. Meanwhile, in 1933, Hitler and the Nazi Party swept to victory in the German elections. 1935 was the last full year of George V's reign. He would die in January of 1936. As such, this coin would have been minted in the last few months of the king's life. It's likely that all coins dated 1936 were made in the reign of Edward VIII. And that's it for us today. Hope you enjoyed all the coins. Please tell us what your favourite was in the comments. Leave us a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.